All right, guys. Welcome to the call, FFL Gladiators. I want to just congratulate everybody for having an amazing week last week and jumping on this call. I'm very excited about this call. I know last week we had Trey Honeycutt on there and Integrity Partner, but this week we have a good friend of mine, Robby Wells. Once I met this gentleman, I was just intrigued. I was just like, oh my gosh, I want to know so much about him. And he's just, I just, I just love listening to him. And we were, I was very lucky to partner up with Robby in this business because there's just so much knowledge that he can just pour into you. And every time I hear him when we go out into these conferences, I'm just like, wow, just I mean, he does he's a speaker for God's sakes, and he's just so much knowledge. And again, I don't claim I know everything. That's why I have people around me that can push me. And I don't claim that I know everything. So that's why we have people around us like Robby and Dave and all these other Hall of Famers that have been doing this for a minute. And so what I wanted to do today is just have a real talk with Robby about what he does, right? No BS, no nothing. Just real talk about what it takes to be a Hall of Famer, what he does, and we will ask some tough questions, right? We will ask some questions from, how, we'll kind of get into it, but like, hey, what are you doing from leads? How much activity are you putting in? How much time are you actually dialing? Like all these things, and we will actually get to the nitty gritty of it. Okay, and that's what I was hoping we can do today. Just to let you guys know, over the weekend, Robby wrote 21 plus thousand. Okay, that didn't happen because he got lucky. Okay, that happened because there was some setup involved. There were some phone numbers. There was some hard work, and I want him to talk about that. But I'm really really happy that you're here, Robby, and pretty much just kind of tell us how long you've been in this business. A lot of people know, and just kind of tell us a little bit about you, a few minutes, and then we'll just kind of get into the questions.
Well, Elvis, thanks so much for allowing me to be here and be able to speak this morning. It truly is an honor to be able to talk a little bit. I'm a student of this game. I'm a student of life, so I'm always trying to learn something new every day. And if you're going to be good at anything, you've got to be willing to take advice and learn something new every day, in my humble opinion. But that's what I've tried to do. Now, I've been with Family First for literally just under 2.5 years, and I'm a prime example of what can happen if you just go to work. You don't have to be a big time salesperson. I'm not. I'd never really sold anything before I came to Family First Life. In fact, my professional career before here, I had been a college football coach, and then I got into politics, but I'd never really sold anything. So 2.5 years ago, I found myself with my back up against the wall. I was basically living in my car because I'd been funding my own campaign to the point where I had less than $300 to my name. And really, I had negative money because somebody had written me a bad check and it had put my bank account to like negative 700. So I was in a bad spot and just in my car. And Aaron Lyles called me up and said, "Hey, there's a guy named Dave Witchard." I said, "Yeah, I know Dave." He says, "Dave just started with this new company called Family First Life, and he's really tearing it up. Maybe you ought to get your life insurance license and start working with Family First Life." And I was like, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. I was in Dallas, Texas at the time in my car and had slept the night before at the Love's truck stop on the north end of Dallas. And so I told Aaron, I said, "I tell you what," I said, "I'm going to drive back to Roanoke," which is Roanoke, Virginia, from Dallas, Texas, halfway across the country. I said, "I'm going to drive back to Roanoke and I will get my license." I said, "I'm going to commit to this and let's see what happens." So that's exactly what I did. By the grace of the good Lord, I didn't break down. I got back there to Roanoke with just a very little bit of money. And so I went into Dave's office there in Roanoke, knew nothing about insurance, studied for the test one day, took the test the next day because I was hungry, Literally, I just took one day to study. I just crammed for it, went and took it and passed it. And then Aaron started helping me get my carriers. And what I started doing is just watching Dave. Dave was coming in every morning. He was making his dials. He was setting appointments, and he'd go run them. I actually went and watched Dave a couple of times in home. I thought he was amazing. Dave wouldn't really take no for an answer. In fact, if they said no, he'd just sit there and he'd look down for about 5 or 6 minutes. It'd get really awkward. It'd get real silent. And then after about 5 or 6 minutes after they had said no, then he'd look and says, "Oh, okay, so what do you think?" And then they go, "Okay, let's do it." It was the weirdest thing, but that was Dave's technique of getting it done, and it worked. So I started patterning myself after him. He was basically my mentor. So once my carriers started coming in, it was Americo, Mutual of Omaha, AIG, John Hancock. That was the main ones I had in the beginning. I still had no money to invest in leads. So I came up with this brilliant idea with Aaron that I would create my own leads for a while, just to get my money going a little bit. So we did just that, created a flyer that I put on Facebook that had my picture. I was smiling real big, and I was holding my wrist up like this, and it had an Apple Nike watch on that you get for free with a John Hancock policy. I'd taken literally $25 of my money, okay, and gotten a John Hancock policy, got the watch. So I said, on this flyer, it says, "If you want a free Apple Nike watch, call me," and I have my phone number. Well, people started calling me left and right, just off a Facebook ad. And so in 2 weeks, I had about $5,000 off that one little ad. I was like, wow, this is crazy. But I realized that there was way more to this business than just a little John Hancock ad, right? So Dave then comes in. He says, "Hey, you got a little bit of money now." He says, let's start getting some real leads. So Dave helped me get set up with EverQuote. And so I started writing some insurance off EverQuote leads, and it worked well for a while. And then I started diversifying with Game Time, Bang Bang, Happy Agent leads, and still at this point had not really done much with the CRM leads, that Family First Life provides. So I guess it was about a year and a half ago when the instant internet leads really came in to their own through Family First Life that I got involved with that. And now I've used other type leads trying to diversify. Like right now I use Smart Financial as well. They've got something that's like an instant internet lead that comes straight to me. It comes in kind of like Happy Agent leads. As they come in, you get them in real time. So I do that. But now as far as my schedule is concerned, if you want what others don't have, you've got to be willing to do what others don't do. I'm just going to say that again. If you want what other people do not have, you have to be willing to do what other people will not do. Most people will not get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I do. Okay. Most people don't get up and then go work out. I do. All right. But before I even work out, the first thing I do is I make my bed. Why? Because it's the first task of the day. And even if I have a crappy day where I go out and I don't sell one policy with all the people that I see, I'm still going to come home to a bed that's made, that I make. Okay. So it really, believe it or not, just making my own bed, it's no military thing. It sets your day in motion. Right. But I go work out early in the morning, worked out early this morning as well. And then I pray, I read a little bit in the Bible. I get cleaned up, take a shower, and I'm usually out the door by 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay. And I'm heading to the office. I'm on a little bit different schedule than most people when it comes to actually dialing and setting my appointments. I do same day. So basically what I do is I go in the mornings, I start dialing by 7:30. And then usually by 10:30, 11 o'clock, I'm done dialing. I'm trying to set 6 appointments a day, which gives me Monday through Friday. That'll give me 30 appointments. And what I found by doing them on the same day like that, number one, you cut down on the no-shows or the reschedules because people are actually waiting on you. It's fresh on their mind. They know you're coming that day. Today, I've got 6 appointments. This afternoon and evening, I've got 6 appointments. So that's worked really, really well for me. And just being consistent and relentless in this business or any business, any relationship, in sports team. If you are consistent and relentless, okay, you can be very, very good at whatever it is that you want to be. I'll say that again. Whatever you want to be consistent and be relentless. You see your shirt there. It says humble and hungry, Elvis. It's so true. Just be humble and be kind to everybody. Go out there. Don't worry about making the money. Concern yourself with helping enough people out there. If you help enough people get what they want, you end up getting what you want anyway. Okay. Bless others. You'll be blessed. And that's what you do in this business. You get the opportunity to actually go out and bless others and help them protect their families and their legacies. Okay. How cool is that? Think about that. But yeah, just get up early and then do the same thing over and over and over again. An old coach of mine, when I was back playing college ball, he used to say 90% of winning is just showing up. Okay. Whether you're showing up to make those phone calls in the morning, whether you're showing up for the appointments, whatever the case may be, 90% of winning is showing up. The other 10% is your attitude. So if you show up with a positive attitude, you have a 100% chance of success. That's a pretty good outlook on it when you start thinking about it. You've got a 100% chance of success if you just show up with a great attitude. And I found that to be very, very true. And like Elvis was saying about this past weekend, yeah, things just didn't get lucky for me. Okay. I work really hard at what I do. And then I go door knock. So let me tell you what happened Saturday. Friday, I was sitting at about 14,000. Okay. And I had written it all on Friday. And sounds pretty good. So Saturday, I really only had one appointment. I had one early morning appointment, which was about an hour away from me at 9 a.m. The reason I had it at 9 a.m. is because the gentleman was having to hang on one second. Sorry about that. I just got somebody tried to make a phone call on me. So that happens. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So anyway, I went to see this gentleman. He had something else going on. He was going to have to leave at 10. So I was like, no big deal. I'll be there at 9. So I was. And so I wrote a CBO 100 for the guy. Got him approved right there while I was sitting with him with America. That was $2,500 annual premium right there. So I'm an hour away from home and I don't have any other appointments. So on the way home, I had already made it up in my mind. I was just going to door knock some people that were between that appointment and going back home. So it was about 4 homes. And so I went to the first 3, nobody's home. I get to the 4th one. I ring the doorbell. This little lady answers. She was 81. And I said, I just introduced myself. Look, I've been trying to call you. She said, yeah. She said, I saw my phone ringing. She said, I've been real busy this past week. Just put my husband in a nursing home. He's got Parkinson's. She says, I do want to get the coverage on him though. Went in and actually wrote a policy for $3,600 annual premium. Okay. First payment comes out today, actually. Good morning, Mel. So that didn't just happen. Okay. I had it set in my mind that I was going to do door knocks on Saturday. I'd already had 30 appointments booked Monday through Friday and Saturday morning. So anything that I was going to do Saturday morning, afternoon was going to be just basically bonus. So that morning on an appointment, I did 2,500 and then I got the door knock for 3,600. Now I'm sitting at 6,100 on Saturday, right? So after I do the door knock, I was like, okay, now I'm going to head on back towards my house. I was about 30 minutes from the house. Well, I get on the road and literally I'd been on the road for about 10 minutes from this door knock and my phone rings. And it was a lady that had no-showed me earlier in the week. Okay. True story. This is how it happened. So her name is Renata. Renata goes, hey, are you still in the area? I was like, actually, yeah. I said, I just passed your business where I came to earlier in the week. She says, yeah. She says, there's one other guy that's been coming at me real hard about getting my business on the insurance. She says, but I keep telling him I'm going to talk to you. She says, and I had to put you off the other day, but I really want to see what you've got as far as quotes are concerned. I said, well, I tell you what, I said, I can swing back to you right now. Her and her husband own an auto mechanic shop in Monroe, North Carolina. I said, I'm about 20 minutes away from you right now. I said, I can swing back and get you guys covered and show you everything. She said, great. So I did. I turned around. I went back. Now I'm already sitting on 6,100 for Saturday. I go back off this phone call because I had made contact earlier in the week, okay, off a CRM lead, okay? This is a lady that I thought was blowing me off. She wasn't blowing me off. So I get there, and so sure enough, I cover her and her husband. I got her husband another CBO 100 with Americo, and then I actually got her Royal Neighbors. So now I'm coming out of there with another 2,400, and I'm sitting at 8,500 for the day. Okay, on 3 different locations that I've written, 8,500 for the day. It gets better. So I'm talking to her about the other guy that was with Banker's Life, and I was like, well, what do you think of him? She was like, well, he's really relentless. She says he works hard. It's just his policies were too expensive. And I was like, well, I tell you what. If you don't mind, I'd like to have his contact information because I'd like to hire him. It's just as simple as that. So sure enough, she gave me the information on this gentleman. It's 10 o'clock now. He'll be here at my office at 11 o'clock this morning because I talked to him yesterday on the phone. He's actually going to come to work with Family First Life. When I started telling him, I said, look, you're making 55% commission right now. Why you want to do that when you can come over here and I can start you at 110? So sure enough, he's coming over here today. Now it even gets better than that because when I told Renata that yesterday, she goes, this is the lady I actually wrote the policy on her and her husband. She's like, well, she says, I have my health license. She says, what if I got my life license? Could I do this? I was like, absolutely. So I hired her too. And then it gets even better. Then she texts me back again yesterday. She says, I need to get my 3 kids covered. She says, do y'all have kids policies? I was like, yeah. So I got another $720 annual premium just on her 3 kids with Mutual of Omaha on their whole life kids policies, and got them all covered with $30,000 whole life. How cool is that? This business is great. You just have to, like I said, be in the right place, right time, just show up, 90% of it. And then the other 10% is your attitude. Now, a lot of people, not only in this business, but other businesses, they want to act like thank you, Brittany. I appreciate that. They want to act like they're doing something when they're sitting there at their desk and they're doing folders for this person, and they're writing this. You're doing nothing. You're not doing anything until you get in your car and you go to their home. You knock on their door, okay? Or you actually run appointments on the phone if you're doing telesales, okay? Busy work is just that. You'll be busy getting yourself out of this business, okay? But if you want to really, really do well at this business or anything, you got to do what other people won't do. Get up and make yourself go.
I love it. I love it, man. Gosh, I don't even know where to start. You gave us, I mean, I got like a list of things you said. I had all the nuggets. I could just talk about it. But something that has popped in my head, you said you get up every morning and you make up your bed. I do the same thing. I was listening to Jordan Peterson, and he's one of my, I love listening to him. And he was doing a lecture, I think, in one of the high universities in Toronto. And one of the students got up and asked him, he's like, what do you recommend I should do about, global warming? And he said, you should make up your bed first. He's like, if you can't make up your bed, you got no business of trying to fix global warming, right? and
There's some truth to that.
Yeah. And so he's like, if you can't do that, then you can't do anything else, right? So you got to do your basics, right? And just, from making your phone call, making up your bed, and just getting into that habit of that repetition of just doing the basics. You can't do the complicated things if you can't do the basic things, right? So right. I love what you said there. And I mean, your week is just amazing. I mean, everything you've done. But it's not always sunshine, right? I think I talked to you 2 weeks ago, and you're like, dude, I just can't close anything. I don't know what's going on. I just took a
Yep.
day off and I went to go see Aaron for a little bit. Talk about that difference. I know when it's like when it's when there's a harvest, everything kind of comes in, but when there's a drought, it feels like there's a drought. And to manage those highs and lows, how do you do that?
Very good. Well, this is one thing I used to always tell my players when I was coaching. It's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems. It's usually somewhere in between. So you want to make sure that you keep your emotions on an even keel, whether you go out like I did this past weekend and write 21,000, or whether you go out 2 days in a row and you can't close anything because people keep telling you either they're not home, they need to reschedule, they want to think about it, they don't have any money, whatever. It happens. Okay. What you have to do is understand that in this business, or any business, that it's all about the numbers. Okay. And you got to play the numbers to your favor. Okay. So if somebody tells you no, or if they hang up on you on the phone, or if you get cussed out, or it's a disconnected number, or whatever the case may be, that's great, because it gets you closer to the next one that you're actually going to set. So you just have to keep going and keep going and keep going until it starts getting good again. Okay. And trust me, it's gonna go back where it's not as good as it was this past weekend. I'm sure that's just business. That's the way the world is. I've been on top of the mountaintop. Okay. I've been in some deep valleys too. I'll be at both places again in my lifetime. That's just the way the world works. Okay. The question is, how do you manage it mentally when you're at both of those places? Do you let your emotions get away with you in a great way when you're on top of that mountain? And then when you're deep in that valley, do you let your emotions get away with you where you're like, oh, I'm never going to do this again, I'm just going to quit? No, you don't do that. You got to keep your emotions on an even keel and understand that even though the business may do this, you're going to do this. Okay. And just keep it moving, keep it positive. And then at the end of the year, you'll be surprised. Now, I made the Hall of Fame last year. I want to touch on this too, Elvis. Here's how I did it. The ultimate for making Hall of Fame is over 400,000 issue paid annual premium. Okay. Sounds like a daunting task. But if you break it down, okay, and here's how I did it. I said, well, okay, so what I want to do, I want to put in right at $50,000 a month. Okay, so if I'm doing $50,000 a month, that's 600,000 that I submit in a year, and out of that 600, I should be able to get 400 that issue pays. Okay, so if I'm doing 600 a year that I actually submit, that is roughly 50,000 a month, right? Am I correct? My math's right. Yeah, it is. Okay, which is 12,500 a week. Now, so if I want to get about 12,000 a week, and I know that, or 12,500, and then I just break it down for 6 days. So I'm needing to get about $2,000 a day. So I know that every day that I get up, I want to write at least $2,000 worth of business. Now, if I write less than that, then I know that the next day when I get up, I need to write a little bit more than 2,000. If I only write 1,700, the next day I want to write 23. Okay. And then if one day I write 4,000, then I know that the next day is really just a bonus day. Okay. I don't take it off. I still try to get ahead. But I know I've got small goals, daily goals that I put together that become weekly goals, that become monthly goals, that become the year goal, so that I can actually hit my goals. That's the way I do it. So don't look at the big picture. Break it down into really, really small, little attainable one-day goals that each and every one of us can go out and get. And if you're not going out and writing, okay, consistently in this business, if you're doing less than $10,000 a month, why are you doing this? Because $10,000 a month is only $2,500 a week. $2,500 a week is only two policies. Think about that. You can be really, really bad at this business. Think about this. Okay. So if you just are really bad at this business and you only on average write one policy a day, Monday through Friday, you're going to on average get paid $1,200 per policy, which is roughly at 1,200 times 5 days a week is $6,000 a week, which is $24,000 a month, which is $300,000 a year. Where else can you be bad at a business and make $300,000 in a year? Family first life is. So there it is.
You can be really bad and still make a doctor's salary, right? Is what
Yes,
you're
you can.
saying.
Yes.
And you didn't have to go to school for 17 and a half years, right? And be, in debt for, $300,000. So, I'm telling you, once I got into this business in 17, I personally became unemployable. Like anywhere I go, I would be taking a pay cut, right?
Sure.
And somebody is going to be telling me what to do. And I just can't work for other people. And I just, the day I decided to be my own boss, I decided to take my own life into my own hands, where if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail at my own, because I didn't work hard, or, it's not because of somebody else. Now, one thing I do want to ask, and everybody here, I imagine is thinking the same thing. Hey, I know you're getting all these appointments, right? And I want to be a Hall of Famer, and you're doing all these activities. How much, and this is real, like I want to know exactly how much are you spending a week on leads? And do you have like a side account that you put money aside where it's like a rainy day where you're like, I know that this is going to happen, so I always have a reserve for my leads? So how much do you spend, and how do you manage that investment that you always keep pouring in?
Okay. So I'm not having to spend as much on leads now as I was 2 years ago, because I'm better on the phone. Okay. So you're gonna have to invest more in the beginning than you will later on, because I've gone to the same day appointments. What I try to do is have a small number of fresh leads every day that I'm calling. Okay. So here's the way I'm doing it. I'm a member of WorkSpots, which gives me all the discounts on the CRM, and literally whatever is on a discount, I'm going to go and I'm going to load up on that. Okay. If there is no discount, then I'm still going to get the cheapest leads that are out there, which is the 3-month and the 1-month leads. Okay. So I'm going to make sure that I've got at least 20 new leads every morning to call, because from 7:30 until about 10 to 10:30, I'm making my calls. Okay. And I'm on those 20 leads, I can usually book about 4 to 5 appointments. And I've usually got 1 or 2 that carry over from a few days before that are already there. So that gives me roughly 6 appointments to run that day. I'm spending probably about $100 a day on my CRM leads, which is $500 a week. Okay. Which is $2,000 a month. I'm also a part of Smart Financial, which is, they take $500 up front just to get you started, and then when your balance gets down to $50, they charge you another $250. I'm probably spending roughly about $1,000 with them a month. So roughly right now, I'm only spending about $3,000 a month in my leads. That may sound ludicrous, but it's the truth.
I don't think that's ludicrous at all. I think that's about where you need to be, if not more, in my opinion. I think you were spending more your first year trying to figure this business out, right?
Correct.
And I think when we were talking, you were spending somewhere at $2,000 a week to get that momentum, to get all those, and gosh, we talk about momentum all day long, but to get the momentum, to get all those people that you can be calling, referrals and everything else, your first year, it's like almost learning. It's like your tuition investment. And you did, Hall of Fame. You did amazing. And now you're at that point where, okay, I know I can do this. I've invested. How can I be more profitable? Right. And that's when you started changing things. I know in the past you said you made phone calls, then you ran them, and then you're like, well, I need to change something. And now you're doing it same day appointments. Again, you're going to change even that, because you'll find a better way to do it as we move forward. And I think that's the important thing of this business is you're constantly trying to adjust and change. But the basic and the the fundamental things of investing in your leads does not change, right? You still have to
Correct.
invest in it. And so when you started, I think you said you were doing somewhere between 2,000 a week, trying
That's
to
correct.
really get this going, and you were out there all the time. And I do want to let people know, yes, you're spending $3,000 a month on leads, give or take, but then you still have, gas and maintenance and food and all those other things where if you want to do it remotely and you want to do a Hall of Fame, guess what? You'll have to spend 3,000. You might have to spend another grand a month, because that gas and that food and all that kind of equals up to it, because you'll have you'll have a lot of no shows and all that, etc. if you want to go into Hall of Fame. In my opinion, and this is something, whoever wants to do Hall of Fame or any kind of numbers they want to do, see how much you're spending a month on leads and how much you're writing. If you're doing $2,000 a month on leads and you're writing, 10,000 to 15,000, guess what? If you spend 2,000 in a week, you're going to do 10, 15,000, right? So that's kind of where you are. You're going to get better, which is nice as you keep doing this, but you still have to invest if you're going to, do Hall of Fame, right? I think you'll blink. And if you do this consistently, you'll end up being a Hall of Fame without even knowing. I mean, I don't think Robby knew. I don't think you knew you were a Hall of Fame. You just looked up and you're like, oh my gosh, I think I can hit Hall of Fame, right?
Well, yeah. And like, I'm going to answer Corey's question, because Corey just asked, she says, how many months did it take for me to reach Hall of Fame? And what is the number one attribute that made you reach that status? Okay. So how many months did it take? Corey, last year, I ended up hitting Hall of Fame in November. Okay. So I had it broken down daily, what I needed to get, and I was just ahead of it. I was ahead of and I had it broken down what it was going to take in 12 months. I did it in 11. Actually, I did it in about 10 months, three weeks, but right at 11 months. Okay. But if you break it down, you can do it. You can flat out do it. And the reason I reached that status is because I got a burning desire in my inside of me to succeed. Okay. Because it's not just about me. There's a lot of other things, Corey, that I want to do and I want to accomplish. And Family First Life is actually helping me do that. Okay. Like the foundation that I've started, to eliminate homelessness. Okay. That's something that I want to be able to do. So Family First Life is actually allowing me to do that. And, some other things politically that I want to do as well. Let's see. Brittany says, that's awesome. And then, Corey, you said, at what point did you start recruiting and what did the process look like for you? Okay. So, I used a recruiting service for a good long time. It was okay. It wasn't great. What I found out works better for me with recruiting is people that I actually come in contact with. Okay. Just like this past weekend, I told you I came in contact with a client, and she had one of my competitors that was working pretty hard. He just didn't have great products. So I ended up recruiting him, and he's coming in here in probably about 30 minutes from now. Okay, Mason is. Another one that I recruited, a really good agent that produces for me, Corey, is my personal trainer. I started working with Matt in the gym last September, almost 11 months ago, I guess now. I was really, really bad out of shape. And he came in. He actually saved my life. I ended up losing about 50 pounds. But he's from Florida, and I'm here in Charlotte. The convention last February was down in Miami, really, really close. So he was just coming to support me because he knew I was going to get to speak because I hit Hall of Fame. He comes down, he sees all the people that are making the money, and now all of a sudden this personal trainer is like, well, wait a minute. He says, I'm doing personal training, but I'm only making about 20% of what you're making. What if I got my license? I said, well, if you get your license, you're going to do just as good, if not better than I do. And so you know what he did? After the convention, he took 2 weeks and he got his license, and now he's out here and he's selling, and he's doing about $25,000, $30,000 a week, and he's just getting going. So when it comes to recruiting, it's really about recruiting the people that you're around. You can use the services. They've never been that great for me. What I do is when I sit with a client, if they're young, I present them the opportunity after I actually write the policy. I give them the opportunity to come take a position with us, or I do this with every one of them. I'll ask this one question: do you know anybody? And this is right after I write the policy. Do you know anybody that may not be happy in their profession, but you would consider a top-notch individual? And everybody's got somebody like that. And a lot of them will say, yeah, me. And so at that point, then I just present them the opportunity. And that's how I've been doing a lot of my recruiting. But that's a really, really good question, Corey. And I don't know, Corey, I don't know if you're new or not, but if you are, I promise you, if you'll just act for the next 2 years like you've got a boss breathing down your neck, even though you know that in this business, you are your own boss. Your upline, they're strictly there to be your mentor and help you, okay? But if you'll act like you've got a boss breathing down your neck, like you've got to get up, you've got to go work, you've got to go do this, and you'll set the foundation correct, then you're going to be set to do very, very well. Okay, let's see. What do you recommend as far as recruiting for an agent who is 100% virtual?
I can answer that one.
Go ahead.
Because I know, we do, we transitioned in virtual 2020, March 2020. So we did face-to-face, but, virtual, and I always say this, and Robby, you've done some virtual as well, but, the truth is you're not a big fan of it, and that's okay. And I'm totally, yeah. I'm okay with that. And I think that's totally fine. In my opinion, in-home is a lot easier than remote sales, by far. Okay, if you just sit there and you just look at them awkwardly like Dave does, I guarantee you'll get an application. Okay,
right?
Just to look at them, right? You can just smile, be nice, and just give them a price, and they'll buy from you, right? As long as you don't talk yourself out of it. I think that's that's the truth. And a lot of times you're going to get to a home and they totally forgot you were coming, but they're still going to invite you because they're nice. Remote agents, just, we can talk about that, Corey, offline, but it's a lot harder. You're going to have to invest more in leads. You're going to have a lot more no-shows. And that's just the reality of virtual. That's why you need to spend more money. I think, Sean and what was that? The guy that tested it out for Family First Life. I forgot his name, but they want to make sure persistency is there and all kinds of stuff. But man, Robby, I do appreciate you jumping on this call, and I know you got a lot going on. Last question here for new agents, senior agents that are struggling, from buying leads or having inventory where they're just kind of like hesitant, right, to do that, where they don't really believe it, but they do believe it. Like, what would you say to those people that are like in and out, right, where they're like, yes, I got paid a little bit, but man, I just don't have enough money for this. Like, you've been there, like from a capital standpoint to like fully go in 100%. What advice would you give them?
Okay, now I can get really crude because I'm an old football coach the way I used to with some of my players that didn't know if they really wanted to play or if they wanted to be a part of the team. I can get crude. I'm not going to do that because we got some ladies on here. Okay, what I am going to tell you is, a lot of people, when you go swimming, and this is the nice way of saying it. I'm going to give you the nice way, okay, Elvis? When you go swimming, especially if it's early in the year, it's not really quite summertime yet. You go and you take your foot, you dip it in the water a little bit just to see if it's cold, see if the water's good enough where you can actually jump in. Okay. So you're kind of in, you're kind of out, you're kind of in. You're not really all the way submersed in that water, right? It's the same way in this business. If you just kind of put one foot in a little bit and then you go over here and you do this over here and then you come back and you do this, okay, you may sell a few policies here. That's great and good, but you're never going to be great at this business. The only way you're going to be great at anything, whether it's Family First Life or whether it's whatever, is if you dive in. Okay, that whole saying, you're going to sink or swim. It's true. Okay. Well, if you jump all the way in, there's a survival mechanism that kicks in on everyone to swim, and you will swim. I've seen too many people, they'll get in, they'll write a couple of policies. In fact, I saw this one individual, she got in and she wrote about $7,000 her very first weekend. She had one little chargeback of $300 on a Mutual of Omaha kids policy, right? And she let that $300 scare her out of her $6,700 profit. And she's no longer in the business. That's what I'm talking about. So if you jump in all the way with whatever it is, and then go forward, because you can be really good at one or two things in life, or you can be really, really bad at 100 of them and try to diversify all over the place. Just doesn't work that way. So find what you want, dive in, go get it.
Well said. Good advice. Good advice. Robby, man, we could talk about this stuff all day. And yeah, at the end of the day, just show up. I mean, immerse yourself with the people that are doing exactly what you're doing, right? And just smile. And you can't help but just the byproduct of it, man. You're gonna sell a policy somewhere, some way, you know, just by being immersed, by just insulating yourself with the people around you and what we do. I think, in my opinion, and you've seen this well, isolation, I think, is the number one killer for agents. If you isolate yourself, if you're by yourself and you're not reaching out, or you're not in an office, or you're not in a, you know, in just a conference, or just going out and seeing people, or you know, just talking to agents, it is easy to talk yourself out of it, right? You can sell yourself so easily because you know how to tick, right? You'll sell yourself very easy to go to the gym, or to quit something, or to start something. Like, you know where to sell yourself. But to keep going, that's hard. So you need to insulate yourself, not isolate. So many times I was driving home from, you know, a 3-hour drive, 10 appointments, and I didn't sell anything. It was so easy to drive off the cliff, right? At that point, you need to call your buddy that's running with you and be like, dude, how much did you sell? Well, I sold $7,000. Like, son of a, you sold $7,000? I sold nothing. So you get mad.
Hey,
right?
Hey, speaking of, let me say this, and this is the last thing I'll say, Elvis, but this is really good for everybody that's on here. So last summer, I literally on one of my weekdays, I had 13 homes I was going to. Okay. Most of them were actually appointments, and I had double booked just in case, you know, there was going to be a no-show here. That we have all done that, right? And then I had a few door knocks that I'd put in there. Well, literally on every door knock, nobody was home, and every appointment that I had was either a no-show or a reschedule or whatever. Okay. I literally had done 12 of my 13 appointments and had been blanked with a 0, a big goose egg for the day. After that 12th appointment, and I had one appointment left, that 12th appointment was literally 2 miles from my house, 2 minutes away from my house. The very last appointment was an hour away. Okay. It was getting late in the day. It was starting to get a little bit darker. And it wasn't even to sell a policy. It was to go over a policy with a husband and wife that I had gotten and put some coverage on the husband. Something in me said, yeah, go ahead and go. So I did. I went up there, you know, to do the right thing, go over this policy with this family. And when I got there on the 13th appointment, I sit down and I'm going over it. And the wife looks at me and she says, I just don't think that's enough coverage. Can you write another policy? Yeah, I can do that. So right there, I wrote another policy and ended up getting paid $1,600 for the day, all because I pushed through. So everybody has those bad moments. Just push through. There's light at the end of that tunnel, I promise you.
Yeah, you already went through it. Might as well just keep going at this point. Like, you already endured all the pain. And on the other side, there's always a, you know, right around the corner, it's, you know, there's always applications. But Robby, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Really, really honored to be in business with you. And another Hall of Fame year. Very, very honored. Thank you so much, guys. I'm going to be sticking around, making some dials as well. And if you guys want to listen, you're more welcome to. Robby's is killer in home. I do a lot virtual as well. And again, there's the only wrong way to do this business is to not do it. Okay. That's the only way. If you're not doing anything, that's the wrong way to do it. But if you're calling, you're in home, regardless, if you keep pushing through and you keep doing mistakes over and over again, and you constantly try to change and tweak things and try to do it better and insulate yourself with people around you that are doing this, you will do it and you will get better. It took Sean, 17, 18 years to get FFL where it needs to be. And if you think about it, if it takes you 10 years to get, I mean, heck, if it takes you 30 years to get where Sean is and he's making millions, it's worth it. I guarantee you it's worth it, right? If it takes you, I don't know how long, right? If it takes you 5 years to be a Hall of Famer, it's worth it. It is the most income you can think of from any other opportunity. And I think I'll make a tattoo out of this, but this is the closest thing, this business is closest thing to printing money. I don't know if there's anything closer to printing money than this industry, right? We're helping people, we're giving people a service, and the insurance companies need us because we distribute it. They are good at making products, but they are horrible at selling them. And so they need us. They need really good agents that put in hard work to help families. Okay, guys, thank you so much. And we'll have another call next week with another guest speaker as well. I'm very excited. But Robby, thank you. And if you guys want to stick around, you're more welcome to. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great week.